name is Mike. This is a bike. No, this is a cylinder head. Now, if you've been following my channel, you watched me go pick up a really, really cheap Ford Falcon. And the Ford Falcon was really, really cheap for a good reason. Well, it was only about 80% there. There's a lot of missing parts. And cylinder number 5 was locked up. So in the last episode, you saw me drop the pan, go in there, and break the piston trying to get it loose. So in this episode, got a little jump start on it, and I yanked the cylinder head off so we can try to get that piston out. See, the rest of the engine is in remarkably good condition. It's even got shiny new valve springs. I don't know if you can see them. So it was a recent rebuild, and if I can get that piston out and put another piston in it, we may even get a running engine out of the deal yet. So, stick around.
Somewhere in a dusty, dirty back alley in western Arizona, not far from historic Route 66, is an old fart trying to cram a square peg into a round hole. He'll work on anything, just as long as it's got at least 2 cool wheels.
And as you can see, the walls are just horribly rusted. And there's a rust grunge layer that, you know, it's not going to move. So what I'm hoping to do, I've already disconnected it from the crankshaft at least a little bit. Separated the connecting rod a little. I'm going to kind of smack on it here with a hammer and a piece of wood. If I can get it to scooch down a little bit, maybe get in there, you know, with some muriatic acid and a hammer and chisel and get some of that rust out of the way, and maybe we can pop that piston out of there. Alright, that actually worked. If you look, you can see there's a little line there. So it scooted down about 1/4 of an inch or so. So that gives me some hope. I'm going to get in here and see if I can clean this out enough to maybe get this piston out of here. And once we know what size that piston is, well, we can try to source one. I did see one on eBay for 25 bucks. Let's hope it's the right size. Well, I don't have a cylinder hone like I thought I did. I don't know what I did with it. I'm going to try a little wire or wheel here and see if we can't just, you know, work some of that rusty crud out of the way. Ew. Well, I've scraped and chiseled as much as I can. I think we got enough of it off that we might be able to push the piston past it. So up in the air she goes, and we'll give it a good pounding from underneath. note. Come on now. Work with me here. Sure. By golly, we got us a piston. Yay! Woo! There she is. Just crusty and rusty, and yeah, it's broken. So I broke it. See, I broke it here, and trying to get the dang thing to move. No skirt. That's okay. Let me see if I can find numbers on this. Clean it off a little, and once I know what size it is, I'll see if I can get one. I want to get a hone. I want to clean up that cylinder and see if it's salvageable. I may be wasting my time here. Won't know until I can get a hone in there and just see how deeply gouged that rust has left the surface. So we'll do that. I got to run to the auto parts store to get that. We'll probably do that tomorrow. But anyway, I'm really happy. I got this out. That was my goal for the day. So at least I know whether this is worth going any further and trying to repair. So I went ahead to O'Reilly's and rented a cylinder hone and just, cleaned it up as best I could. And turns out those pits are pretty deep. If you look at them, it looks kind of like the crater surface of the moon or something. And so basically that block is junk unless you were to, bore it way out or sleeve it or something like that. Which, of course, I'm a cheapskate. I'm not about to spend that kind of money on that engine. Now, I did mention that I saw an engine for sale down in Phoenix for $150. I tried to get a hold of that guy, got no response. There are a few others around, but they're all a long ways away. I don't want to drive. I'm kind of lazy that way. So what I've decided to do, for a minimal investment, I paid $25 for a piston and about $50 or so for some, gaskets. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a piston in that tore up hole. What's the worst that can happen? Don't answer that. Look, it's probably going to smoke. It's probably going to burn oil. It may even break a ring or something like that. But I can get it to run. It probably won't be the best. It'll probably run on 6 cylinders occasionally, 5 cylinders most of the time. But at least the car will move on its own power and I can get the heck out of my work area so I can work on other stuff. And then I can continue that search for a much better engine. So I figured, $75, $80 Band-Aid on it for now. Now, I still have to do a couple of other things while I'm waiting for the piston and other parts to arrive. I've got to bang that dented oil pan back out, straighten out that bent pickup tube, and I've got to clean the damage off I did to the crankshaft because I was too stupid to put some kind of a sleeve on the studs of the connecting rod so they wouldn't, smack into the journal on the crankshaft. So I got to get in there with some kind of abrasive, clean that up, and then we'll cobble it back together. This ought to be interesting. RTV set up overnight and it should hold oil again. I put RTV on the inside and the outside, clean it up real well. I could see the crack right where that drain plug flange, spot welds to the pan. So we're ready for that piston. So whenever the piston lands, we cleaned up the journal, got the pan ready to go back up. Heck, I even scraped the old gasket off. Come on, piston. So I had to go out of town. I had to go down to Gilbert, Arizona for some medical professional treatment stuff. And picked up a little something along the way home. a nice rusty fender. But fortunately, it's all surface rust, and it is in far, far better condition than the left fender that's on the old forked Falcon. Now, I call it the forked Falcon because, well, I needed a name for it, and I figured that's a pretty good name for it because if you look at it, it's forked. Somebody stuck a fork in it and said, hey, this car is done. It's never going on the road again, so they started stealing parts off of it. So that's where the name Forked Falcon comes from. The ad in the paper said Yard Art, but that name's already been reserved for my Cougar, so we're going to call it the Forked Falcon. Forked Falcon now has a new usable fender that we can take the bad one off of. I want to get that other one stripped down and primered before I put it on. But it's, you know, one little more step in the right direction. Also, while I was gone, look what arrived in the mail. A piston. And if you guys know me, I made sure and got the wrong piston. Well, the listing said, you know, 170 engine. It didn't specify years or options. And it's extremely similar to the piston that came out. Diameter is the same. I checked it in the bore. It fits and everything. But I think the wrist pin is a little different. It's different. I don't know if it's going to work or not. So we're going to try to make it work, though. So as you can see, on the original piston, well, this area here has got kind of an opening, a gap, so that I don't know if oil has to get there or not. This one actually has kind of a blocked off area, a ridge. There's a whole bunch of stuff here that's not on this one. Other than that, it looks pretty much the same. But my main concern is this is what we call a semi-floating wrist pin. So the wrist pin is press fitted to the connecting rod, and it can move in or out or whatever, and the actual rotation takes place right here where it goes into the boss on the piston. This one, it appears that the connecting rod, well, the wrist pin seems to be pressed in. So I don't know if this is going to allow it to rotate and float like it's supposed to or not. Either way, this has got to be pressed out of the connecting rod so I can use the connecting rod. So I'll probably take it to the local machine shop since I don't have a press and let them tell me if this is going to be an issue. Hopefully it'll work just exactly the same, even though it looks a little different. You know, we can always grind these off if we have to. Get into some risky area there, but nonetheless, we're going to make it work. Alright, I brought it into Mr. C's machine shop, and he'll have it ready for me this afternoon. Oh, hi. Now, some of you may be wondering why it took so long for this video to come out after the first one about the Falcon. You're not asking why? Well, I'm going to tell you why anyway. Things happen. Things that I don't necessarily have any, control over. So the car needed, a lot of stuff. And one of the delays is, of course, ordering the cheapest part on eBay. Well, sometimes it takes a while to get here. Now, a little while ago, I said that I'm just going to take the piston in and get the wrist pin pressed out of it. It'd be done this afternoon, right? No. Murphy's Law always applies. And in this particular case, well, the machinist went to do the machinist thing. He had the pressy thing, and he broke the piston. Yeah. This is what happens when you buy the cheapest piston on eBay. Well, they don't hold up to being manipulated for whatever reason. Anyway, he was very apologetic. I told him, look, I understand, no big deal. I'll buy another one. He says, no, don't get another cheap piece of crap off of eBay. Let me order a real piston for you, and I'll let you know. So, we're on delay mode once again, and it's been a couple of days because, of course, there was a weekend involved. It just, one step forward and 27 and a half steps back every dang time, or so it seems. But the car needs a lot of stuff. So even though I really can't put the engine back together and get it running yet, there's still a lot of little stuff I can do. I cranked out a little short video about rigging up some taillights, even though it doesn't drive yet. At least when I do get it drivable, if that ever occurs, At least it'll have tail and brake lights. But the next thing we can do is, well, I do have some eBay parts. This is a steering column shift bowl, and it's supposed to be for Ford, so it may actually be the right part for a change. This is a shift lever, and of course, because it was only $6, it is the wrong part. But it seems to be about the same dimensions as the correct one, so I think I can make it work. At either rate, we're going to try. I'm going to take the steering column apart. I'm going to attempt to install the shift bowl, and then I'm going to see if I can make this lever work. And, you know, when we do get the engine running, we're going to want to be able to get it in neutral and first and reverse and stuff, right? So we're going to give it a shot. Part. It looks so close, but the diameter right here, that's a little bit smaller. It's not going to fit around this. Now I got two choices. I can either try to find the right one, or I can try to bore this one out, or I could just give up and take a nap. I'm really torn between my options. Damn it. Well, it's bad enough that the steering column part was wrong, but it turns out that this wonderful fender I bought is also the wrong fender. If you'll notice, the shape here is different, and this rib is off to one side instead of in the middle. This is for an earlier Falcon, like a 60 or a 61. I could probably put it on there, but it probably wouldn't look any better than what's on there. So that means I'm just striking out left and right. Broken piston, wrong shift bowl, wrong fender. But I was able to get the right light bulb. Yeah, so this headlight bucket was just all beat to crap. I was able to straighten it out somewhat and enough to hold the light bulb in. I'd put it back, except it's, you know, kind of caved in. So it's going to have to wait till the new fender gets put on. So that's good. And then to make things, you know, considerably worse, I was walking by this wonderful wrinkle-finished fender and snagglized my jeans on that sharp corner there. Now, normally, I like to, you know, rip my flesh open until bodily fluids come out, but this time I settled for just the denim, and I guess I got lucky. The long johns didn't get ruined on top of it, but, you know, it's been one of those projects. Got the head cleaned up as best I can, at least the gasket surfaces. Got the dirt daubers out of the intake because there was a nice nest in there. That was fun. There's one I missed. So I got to yank that off and have a look at that thermostat anyway. First I'm going to chisel the concrete like mud off of the bolts, and we'll get that thermostat housing off, clean it all out. I cleaned up the block. So once my piston arrives, I'm ready, I mean ready, to slap it back together. Now another thing I want to do while I'm waiting for that piston to arrive is I want to prime the oiling system. See, this thing sat with a leaking oil pan and no oil in it at all for many, many years. Any oil in the oil galleys is all drained back out. I want to make sure that oil pump can prime. So I've already brought it up to top dead center on number 1. I'm going to mark the distributor. I'm going to pull the distributor out, place just a shallow pan of oil under that pickup screen, and run it with a drill just to make sure that it can pick up the oil. And, you know, push some dirt and debris out of the oil galleys. And then I'll do it once again after everything's all put back together before I actually start the engine. I'll do it one more time just to make absolutely certain that I've pushed all the air out and it'll get lubed, you know? These engines, they like it when they get lubed. Get this out of the way. Wow, it looks surprisingly good in there. Looky there. Somebody must have given her a tune-up just shortly before she got parked. Probably won't even have to replace the points. Nice. It's kind of weird looking through that hole and seeing the ground. Now I did mark it right on the mud so I know, you know, where all the pointy things go. So it shouldn't be too hard to start. And now I can get to that. Now I can get to the drive for the oil pump. Now another thing I want to do is, since there's no rod or cap on here, I want to put a lick of tape around it and block the oil feed hole. Let me get to the other side. Ouch! I want to get a lick of tape around the journal for number 5 and block that oil feed hole, so that way the oil coming into it from the crankshaft can get to that back journal. And then of course we'll put plenty of assembly lube on it when we go to actually put the rod in. But I just want to make sure when I run the pump, I'm squirting oil to all the squirty places it needs to go. And like I said, I'll just put like a pan under this with some oil in it. That should work. Alright, so it's probably going to make a big mess and squirt oil everywhere. So it turns out that the oil pump drive on this is 1/4 inch, which is the same size as my attachment drive here. And we can push a little oil through the different passages. We'll probably see some oil come out some of the passages in the block and make the mess even bigger. Feel it loading up a little. I did prime the oil pump with oil. That should help. Doing something. Making gurgling noises. Oh, it's starting to pool oil here. So I know it's getting into the pump. Well, I've taken the oil filter off and it's pushing oil. The oil filter was empty. I even filled it before I put it on. I don't understand it, but it is moving. The oil pump's moving oil. That's all I want to see. Put this back on and try and keep the mess more contained. Now, it wouldn't be typical of me to do a job without making an enormous mess. And of course, see if I can't cross-thread this oil filter on too, just for good measure. Alright, look at that. Alright, so, well, at least I know it's making it to the oil filter. I really expected to see it dripping out of the crankshaft and squirting up through the oil galleys in the block, in the deck. But it's not. It's weird. Making gurgling noises. I guess that's good. Oh yeah, I see it dripping out of the bottom now. Dripping from the crankshaft and some of the journals. So it is reaching the journals. I really don't know why it's not coming out to the oil galleys. That part I'm not sure about. Maybe it's not spinning fast enough. I don't know, it's doing something. And now I got a faster drill. It's just turbo here. Whoa. Yeah, even the camshaft is just dripping with oil, so oil was getting to the camshaft. It's getting to the crank. Every journal is dripping. So it was doing the thing. It was oiling. It was oiling. Alright, well, I feel better. I just don't know why it wasn't making it up to the head. How are the rockers going to get oil? But I'm sure a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's a missing piston. I'm sure it's fine or not. Alright, so what I've done is I've hooked up my meter to the oil pressure sending unit back there. The oil goes to the head through one of the head bolts, and there's probably a restriction there, so there's not enough pressure for it to get up past that. I just need to know if there's enough pressure to run the engine. So we're going to see if the oil pressure sending unit goes open. Right now it's closed, and my meter is showing a connection. And we're going to run our oil pump. All right, here we go. And if it develops enough pressure, it should open this circuit. Let's see if we can see it. And there it goes. Circuit went open. I've got adequate oil pressure. And now it's closed again when the pressure drops. So that's good enough for me. You know, once the head's on and once the engine's running, it'll probably push enough oil up to get to the rockers. If not, well, the engine was junk to begin with. So another part I'm going to replace while I'm waiting for the piston is the ignition switch. Yep, it's, you know, broken. And I don't like having hot wire stuff if I don't have to, especially when all the wiring harnesses they're still intact. Nobody's butchered them up. At least not down that area. There's a couple of cut wires, but it's not like a hornet's nest. So we're going to pop this in. I got to drill the old one out because the cylinder's got to come out in order to get the switch out from behind it. So we'll knock that out real fast. He's snorting. Alrighty, there she is. I didn't capture it all on video because my battery went dead, but nonetheless, little spring-loaded lock-in thing's kind of a pain in the neck because you got no leverage, but I now have, okay, doesn't start any kind of car or anything, but at least it looks cool. that's going to have to do it for this episode. Yeah, I really wanted to conclude the episode with the engine running, but the parts I need, they're still at least a week out, so I didn't want to delay this video any longer. So that just means you guys are going to have to come back for another episode. Piston's on its way, got a fuel pump on its way, got that shift bowl on its way. Next episode, we should get some real results. Be able to run it, shift it through the gears and all that. And if all that works out, then I'm going to go ahead and fix the brakes and the cooling system and all that stuff. And right now my investment, heck, I'm only into the car about $300. So if I can make it run, hey, I'm doing pretty good. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to click the little clicky things on YouTube. And come on back for the next episode. Thanks for watching. Home on the range, where the deer and the mud daubers play. Oh yeah.